Class President, Chapter 7. Julio in the Lion's Den. On Monday, Arthur came to school with new glasses. Cricket came to class with a big poster that said, "Vote for Cricket, that's the ticket." The election was going to be held on Friday. That meant that there were only 4 more days to get ready. In the meantime, they learned about how to make a nomination and how to second it. It was going to be a really serious election. At lunch, Cricket took out a bag of miniature chocolate bars and gave them out to her classmates. Julio took his and ate it, but it didn't mean he was going to vote for Cricket. He wondered if there was anything Lucas could give out that was better than chocolate. Nothing was better than chocolate. "If you're going to run against Cricket, we've got to get to work," Julio told Lucas on their way home. Julio wasn't very good at making posters, and Cricket and Zoe were, but he was determined to help his friend. The next morning, a new poster appeared in Mr. Flores' classroom. It said, "Don't bug me. Vote for Lucas Cox." Julio had made it. Before lunch, Mr. Flores read an announcement from the principal. From now on, there will be no more soccer playing in the schoolyard at lunchtime. "No more soccer playing?" Julio called out. "Why not?" Mr. Flores looked at Julio. "If you give me a moment, I'll explain. Mr. Herbertson is concerned about accidents. Last week, Arthur broke his glasses. Another time, someone might be injured more seriously." Julio was about to call out again, but he remembered just in time and raised his hand. "Yes, Julio," said Mr. Flores. "It's not fair to make us stop playing soccer just because somebody might get hurt. Someone might fall down walking to school, but we still have to come to school every day." Julio didn't mean to be funny, but everyone started to laugh. Even Mr. Flores smiled. "There must be other activities to keep you fellows busy at lunchtime," he said. "Is soccer the only thing you can do?" Lucas raised his hand. "I don't like jumping rope," he said when the teacher called on him. All the girls giggled at that. "You could play jacks," suggested Cricket. Everyone knew it wasn't a serious possibility, though. "Couldn't we tell Mr. Herbertson that we want to play soccer?" asked Julio. "You can make an appointment to speak with him if you'd like," said Mr. Flores. "He might change his decision if you convince him that you are right." "Lucas and I will talk to him," said Julio. "Right, Lucas?" Sure," said Lucas, but he didn't look too sure. The principal, Mr. Herbertson, spoke in a loud voice and had eyes that seemed to bore right into your head when he looked at you. Julio had been a little bit afraid of Mr. Herbertson since the very first day of kindergarten. Why had he offered to go to his office and talk to him? Mr. Flores sent Julio and Lucas down to the principal's office with a note, but the principal was out of the office at a meeting. "You can talk to him at 1 o'clock, the secretary said. At lunchtime, Cricket had more chocolate bars. This time she had pasted labels on them printed in tiny letters. "Cricket is the ticket." She must be spending her whole allowance on the campaign, Julio thought. After a few more days of free chocolate bars, everyone in the class would be voting for Cricket. At recess, the girls were jumping rope. You could fall jumping rope, too, Julio thought. Back in the classroom, Julio wished he could think up some good arguments to tell the principal. He looked over at Lucas. Lucas didn't look very good. Maybe he was coming down with the flu. Just before 1 o'clock, Julio had a great idea. Cricket was always saying she wanted to be a lawyer. She always knew what to say in class. Julio figured she'd know just what to do in the principal's office, too. He raised his hand. "Mr. Flores, can Cricket go down to Mr. Herbertson's office with Lucas and me? She's running for president, so she should stick up for our class." "Me?" Cricket said. "I don't care if we can't play soccer." "Of course," teased Lucas. "You couldn't kick the ball if it was glued to your foot." "Cricket," said Mr. Flores, "even if you don't want to play soccer, others in the class do. If you are elected, you will be president of the whole class, not just the girls. I think going to the meeting with Mr. Herbertson would be a good opportunity for you to represent the class." So that was why, at 1 o'clock, Julio, Lucas, and Cricket Kaufman went downstairs to the principal's office. Mr. Herbertson gestured for them to sit in the chairs facing his desk. Cricket looked as pale as Lucas. Maybe she, too, was coming down with the flu. Julio waited for the future first woman president of the United States to say something, but Cricket didn't say a word. Neither did Lucas. Julio didn't know what to do. They couldn't just sit here and say nothing. Julio took a deep breath. If Cricket or Lucas wasn't going to talk, he would have to do it. Julio started right in. "We came to tell you that it isn't fair that no one can play soccer at recess just because Arthur Lewis broke his eyeglasses. Anybody can have an accident. He could have tripped and broken them getting on the school bus. Julio was amazed that so many words had managed to get out of his mouth. No one else said anything at all, so he went on. Besides, a girl could fall jumping rope, he said, Julio. But you didn't say they had to stop jumping rope. I hadn't thought of that, said Mr. Herbertson. Cricket looked alarmed. Can't we jump rope anymore? She asked. I didn't mean that you should make the girls stop jumping rope, Julio went on quickly. He stopped to think of a better example. Your chair could break while you're sitting on it, Mr. Herbertson, he said. Mr. Herbertson adjusted himself in his chair. I certainly hope not, he said, smiling. What is your name, young man? Julio. Julio Sanchez. He pronounced it the Spanish way, with the J having an H sound. You have a couple of brothers who also attended this school, Julio, don't you? Asked the principal. Nice fellows, I remember them both. Julio smiled. He didn't know why he had always been afraid of the principal. He was just like any other person. Julio, Mr. Herbertson went on, you've got a good head on your shoulders, just like your brothers. You made some very good points this afternoon. I think I can arrange things so that there will be more teachers supervising the yard during recess. Then you fellows can play soccer again tomorrow. He turned to Cricket. You can jump rope if you'd rather do that, he said. Cricket smiled. She didn't look so pale anymore. Julio and Lucas and Cricket returned to Mr. Flores' classroom. It's all arranged, said Cricket as soon as they walked into the room. The class burst into cheers. Good work, said Mr. Flores. Julio was proud that he had stood up to Mr. Herbertson. However, it wasn't fair that Cricket made it seem as if she had done all the work. She'd hardly done a thing. For that matter, Lucas hadn't said anything either. For a moment, Julio wished he hadn't offered to be Lucas's campaign manager. He wished he was the one running for class president. He knew he could be a good leader.